Good evening, all, and welcome to Let's Talk. Wow, golly. Welcome, one and all. It is the UK's number one.
He's back, mon capitan!
Why did I agree to come back?
No, why do I agree to host it every week? No idea. Right, it is the UK's number one Star Trek based show in the UK at 9 o'clock on a Sunday. So other shows might be breaks on other days, but we're good on a Sunday. So if you're on board, say hello. So introducing tonight's panelists, it's me, Dan, from Tricky Skies of Galaxy. Beneath myself is James from the USS Riker's Beard.
Good evening, everyone.
To my side, it's Richard from the USS Riker's Beard as well.
Hello.
And then down that way, who are you?
I'm Tony Lee, the New York Times bestseller and writer of the Doctor Who Star Trek crossover. Well, the first half of it, because I left after episode 4.
There we go. And Tony is also, yes, I believe you are also another author under another name, aren't you, Tony?
I am. I'm Jack Gatland. I write crime novels and things like that. And it's becoming a bit of a new enterprise, I will be utterly honest. But I'm also now, my other thing is I'm writing graphic novels with rock bands, which is something that will obviously make Richard cry because he'll want to write graphic novels with rock bands.
I've already written 2.
Do they know that you've done this?
Your own rock band doesn't count, Richard, I'm afraid.
Why doesn't my band count?
For many reasons.
Because you dress like the Three Amigos, for a start.
Wherever there is suffering, I'll be there.
As long as we're not the cause.
Wherever liberty is threatened, you will find me.
So let's go into the comments. So we've got a couple of different ones. Gary's on board and he says, good evening to everybody. Lovely, Gary.
Hi, Gary.
Hi, Gary.
David's joining us from Scotland. Evening all.
Hey, David.
I know I'm finished when you're on. There we go. Nadim's in. And he said, good
Hey,
evening.
Nadim.
Good evening, Picarders. And we will be talking about Star Trek Picard later on. If you have not seen Star Trek Picard, we will warn you before we discuss it.
A few bullet points about it to discuss. So we're just going
to. Our friend Mark's on board, as is Christoph. Chris.
You made notes? Oh, crikey.
And Katie. Katie would like to know, when did we get a Mexican pirate?
I'm Q from...
you really know.
What's the episode? Hang on a minute.
Is it Q who? No.
Howdy.
True
How
Q.
you?
Is it Q who?
Was it Q Jumper?
Well, that's Tony working on the new titles for Picard.
I'm sure this... I'm sure
Q-tip.
Oh.
QT.
So
hang on. It had a jacket.
Oh, well, now I recognise you. Now I understand who you're being. Now you've got sleeves.
There we go.
It's a lot more understandable.
That makes more sense, doesn't it?
It does make a lot more sense.
Back, mon capitan.
Let me feed you the line. Oh, my darling, oh, my darling, oh, my darling Clementine.
I don't think you had a glass of wine, though.
Well, I had a cigar, but I quit smoking 20 years ago now. So,
but your commitment to the role just is not up there anymore. I mean, you didn't even wear the jacket for the first 5 minutes. I mean, let's be honest. Oh God.
And unfortunately, Richard's microphone just muted itself. So that's strange. Have you got a hen party that you're attending later? Apparently,
yes.
Okay,
Are you
welcome to real, actual Star Trek show, because there's lots of Star Trek stuff to talk about this week. Now, before we start about Star Trek, James is always better when he's had a drink, because sober James is just sober. So let's get drunk first.
Yes, dear viewer. This evening's cocktail is named the Okudagram, and it is in honour of friends of the show, Mike and Denise Okuda, who in the last few days were awarded, I've written this down, the Lifetime Award or Lifetime Achievement Award from the Scenic Title and Graphics Council of the Art Directors Guild. Fantastic work by both of them. And they're most famous, of course, for this sort of thing that you see behind me, the Acudogram, the computer graphics you'll see on Next Generation onwards. But anyway, this cocktail is made with... now, this is the fun bit. The recipe I found didn't specify any quantities, so I'm going to guess. You will need cocktail shaker with ice already in there. You will need a quantity of pineapple juice. I've put in 125 milliliters. I think that's probably too generous, so I'm going to not use all of that. You then have to mix in some, where is it? Vanilla syrup. I'm going to be rather sparing with that.
Just a tiny dash of that, James.
There we go. I didn't have my pipette handy. Right, some lime juice. As you know, I always prefer to use Ferengi lime juice because Ferengi lime juice is particularly
moist.
There we go, just a dash of that. And we want some vodka. This evening I should be using Smirnoff. I won't, however, be buying any more Smirnoff in light of the actions of certain nations over recent days. I'm going to use just a single shot, I think, of that today. Let's pop that in there.
Smirnoff, which is, of course, owned by a London brewery and is made and bottled in London. So nothing to do with a certain other country at all.
Oh, that's fair enough then. Let's give it a little shaky. Pour her in here. Splendid. Look at that. Lovely. And the secret magic ingredient is appletizer. So it's
appletizer in a tin.
So that's apple and pineapple.
Yeah. Let's give it a swizz with my glass swizzle stick and see how we've done. That is absolutely the tropical taste of an Acudogram. Indistinguishable.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Top marks.
So, this week we have got no collectible corner because Carl is not with us, unless anyone else has something collectible they'd like to discuss.
Still got.
I have a Mexican pirate that's collectible. It's up on that screen there.
I've got a gold-plated mail-on freighter.
I can't wait for the Playmate Mexican pirate figurine to come out.
Have you been still trying to sell that gold-plated freighter for like months now?
I think someone won it, but I can't remember who. Aren't we supposed to be giving it away to someone? Didn't they win a competition? Oh.
Right. Enough of this.
If you're watching and I was supposed to have posted it to you, I'm sorry, I've still got it.
If you were supposed to have won this, please put your name in the chat.
Yes.
So they can
own up to it. Yeah.
So it's been a busy old week in Star Trek land, which is what we're here to discuss. So, first of all, it's been the Star Trek cruise in the last week. I'm not sure if any of you have seen or kept up with any news from Star Trek cruise.
Didn't someone from watching the show on the cruise message us last week? Didn't they? Who was it?
It was Mike, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's Mike, your pal from Pages Bar.
Now, did you see? I'm not sure if any of you have seen it. Tony, did you hear anything from the cruise?
Only a couple of things from Anthony Rapp, but nothing. Hopefully, nothing bad is about to be told to me.
So what we are looking at here is they showed off the uniforms for Strange New Worlds. And they have them on a display. And these are them, which, as you can see from here, they've got some lovely detailing across here. Now, it's almost like...
It's just to aggravate the cosplay community, haven't they? That these fine screen-printed details will be impossible to reproduce.
I was going to say, it's almost like CBS have said, look, we're not going to make... We know that people copy these in different countries, but what we're going to do is we're going to make it so impossible to do that you'll have to buy a genuine...
It brings up a valid point, though, because in general, when it comes to Star Trek cosplaying fans, they honestly don't... I mean, the amount of money that went around for people buying second-hand and overall costumes is huge. So if the studio actually released their own brand of authentic ones... They could charge what they wanted. I mean, they really could. People would pay it.
Now, I mean, I remember back in the 90s, you know, in the noughties being a Star Trek fan, wanting a Star Trek uniform, and they were nigh on impossible to get at that point, unless you had someone that was either a contact in America that would, you know, get you one, or you had a very good friend who could make you one. You know, there was no options to go and buy one like there is today.
Or you had a mortgage and you went to Page's Bar and bought one of the extortionate tops that they would always sell there.
So
one of my favourites. When we were at it was Folkestone. We did the Folkestone one. We took the Riker's Beard set to. We met a young lady called Lucy. Anyway,
yes,
Lucy, and she was wearing a costume that was given to her by her mum, that was made by her grandmother, because you couldn't get a hold of a costume.
Wow.
So it's a handmade one passed down through 2 generations. And I tell you what, it was wasn't it just the most wonderful story? And wasn't it a really good costume, James? It was my favourite moments of any convention. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
So this is just showing some of the detailing in some of these. This is the Pike, and this is the number 1.
They do riff a bit on TNG style with the black side paneling, don't they?
They do. Now, the paneling down here is specific to each speciality as well. So just to make it more hard for people to copy. And the neckline is very much changing on them as well. Not that we're getting into in-depth about how they are, but you'll notice the trousers have a dual stripe down them.
I will
really
say,
nice.
though, that knowing the cosplay community in America, I can guarantee you that there's somebody already that has swathes of this material already worked out and made that they can sell.
Yes.
And some very nice motorbike style boots here. Yes, so that's the new uniforms, and that came out this week. So that's quite a nice bit from the cruise.
So were these at the cruise? Were they on the ship? Were they?
They were, yeah. It was part of the Strange New World exhibit on the ship. So, evening, Carl.
Good evening, gents. How are we?
Hello, Carl. How you doing? It's a pleasant
Late,
surprise.
but here.
We've all done a little speech to introduce ourselves. It's your turn now.
Hi, it's me.
Short and sweet. Well done.
I didn't realise I could just do that. That seems a lot easier.
You have to explain what that you're an author, because then this becomes a work meeting.
What did I miss with regards to cosplaying this evening, Richard?
Well, he's a Mexican pirate.
This is my tenuous link to the return of Q.
Right, moving forward. Nadim says he doesn't think that Sniffies will make such detail on theirs.
It's unlikely, let's be fair.
I wonder what they'll do for my Mexican pirate figure, though. Whether they'll get this sort of detail in.
I can't wait for Pirates of the Mexican Gulf. It's going to be such a great Disney film. Right, let's have a look at this one. So if you are in America and you're one of our friends that's over towards Los Angeles, the new Star Trek has a 10 forward bar, and there's a 10 forward bar experience running between March 10th to the 20th. You need to pre-buy a ticket. You can't just rock up. And it is a chance to go and sit in the bar, go to the exclusive Star Trek shop, have a few drinks, and you can eat food. They're doing food and stuff. It's a full pop-up. It is bookable only, and it is bookable through the website there, which is 10forwardexperience.com. So
Dan, is this a case then that they've fitted out a resident or a commercial unit somewhere as a bar, and then at the end of this experience it will be stripped away, it won't be a bar anymore?
I'm not sure.
It might be a bar, but it won't necessarily be.
It might not be a Star Trek themed bar afterwards.
It won't be this bar.
But,
I feel that we've wasted precious seconds on this important topic, and we should move on.
Right.
Richard,
now,
you missed
I will say that
10 forward experience after the episode.
Well, I will also say that LA has a very good reputation for themed bars. I mean, the Star Wars Cantina turned up as a pop-up and is now a mainstay of sort of that kind of market. So it would be nice to see if they don't carry on with this Star 10 forward, if they could still do a kind of a Star Trek themed bar. I mean, I know London started it years ago, but I think this could be a nice thing for LA to do.
Yeah. So now we're going to have a quick discuss of Star Trek Picard. So if you have not watched Star Trek Picard, it might be a good opportunity for you to now turn off the show. Come
Spoiler
back
alert.
long later. if you have seen Picard, feel free to chip in. So our first slide.
Hang on, don't we have something that we can do before when we say spoiler alert? We used to do this.
Now, that could be our first topic of discussion. Did you see the return of the old school Red Alert graphics coming in?
Yeah.
Now, our first slide, and watch right now if you don't want to see. I put this one in first because it ties to that bar experience there, which we just talked about. It was the return of a well-loved Star Trek character, Guinan, who explained very quickly why she'd aged, because obviously Elorians don't really age, and between Star Trek Generations to, from the Enterprise B to Enterprise E, there wasn't much aging in Whoopi Goldberg, but then there seems to be quite a bit from sort of Generations to now. And she explained that she has the ability to control her aging, which...
Yeah, I for one missed out the whole... I thought when she saw Picard, she might give him the universal greeting. No.
No, hopefully that'll come later on when her and Q come to blows.
Was there any explanation for the sudden arrival of the New York accent?
No. Right, moving on. Next slide.
I will say though that with Guinan, I didn't understand, and it's a bugbear of mine, which is, they have to try and find an excuse of why she looks a little bit older. First off, she didn't look that much older, realistically, the way the lighting was done. And we understand she's an actress playing a role. No one's explained why Picard looks way older when they're supposed to be able to live like a couple of 100 years these days. Yeah. I remember when DeForest Kelly played McCoy in the first Encounter at Farpoint, and they really aged him up because he was like 170 or something. And Picard's only supposed to be like about
137, according to Starfleet Records, Admiral.
Well, he still looks a lot older than he should be. So there's an element of just go, they're actors, deal with it.
Absolutely.
I did wonder after watching The Irishman that they did on Netflix, where they managed to de-age De Niro and Joe Pesci and everyone. I wondered how much they would bring that technology into Picard. I'm glad they haven't. I think
they have. I think they did for one scene.
Yeah, the quick 5-second bit with Q.
Interestingly, that's our next slide. So let's move that on. And
we've skipped past points 1 to 16 already.
We'll come into your points in a moment, Richard. Get through the slides, because you didn't tell me what your points were, so I haven't got appropriate slides. These are the two images of Q, and it is the sort of reverse aging thing, like you said.
I thought this was very well handled, I've got to say, because when you saw the pictures, there was an element of how you're going to explain that the immortal Q is, older, and actually having him look at him and go, "Ugh," click, oh, that's better. It fitted so nicely, and I thought they did a very good thing. I mean, I know that obviously the whole deep fake thing with this, it's they're putting his face on his face, so it makes it a lot easier than say Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker. But I thought, at a distance and with the light, even looking at this, it looks like him, a little bit uncanny valley, but it's cute.
Have you seen the kit that they have to put? Well, actually, it's not specifically on the actors, but it's the amount of cameras they have to have on the actor to do it well. And Joe Pesci and De Niro both said, it was great they didn't have to have bubbles on their face or anything like that, but they were constantly being told by Scorsese, don't look at the camera. But there were so many cameras, they really struggled not to never look at the camera. They just could not do it. But it does look amazing, it really does.
No. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So, Richard, what have you got on your first point for us to have?
Well, I'd like to speak, first of all, about the opening sequence. I mean, my word, I'm a little bit confused because the opening sequence kicked off, and I remember when we went to the premiere in London, all of us were there, actually, weren't we? Of course, Tony was there as well, and Carl and everyone.
Well, I would like to point out here, before you carry on this point, I was very disappointed that I went to the premiere of Picard Season 1, but I wasn't able to go to the premiere of Picard Season 2. And I think they dropped the ball there by not giving us a party.
Can we just put a raise of hands, please, if you did get invited to a Picard Season 2 premiere?
Awkward. Anyway, so about the opening sequence.
Moving swiftly on.
Sorry, Tony.
I remember being, to be honest with you, a little bit underwhelmed by the theme tune the new theme tune. And I'll have to double check, but I prefer it more. I think they've added some more strings into the middle to give it a bit more gravitas. But I have to admit to it, which was fantastic. And the whole intro scene of Picard, and he's walking through the vines and he's having a grape, and number one, his dog's there with him living. I got this overwhelming sense of, mate, you've earned this. Like, he looked so happy. And I just thought, you've really earned this. And the striker thought, it's not going to last, is it? It's really not going to last. But I just thought that was absolutely wonderful. And then of course we move. How in depth do we get? Are we going to do an after show in
It's
depth?
a 1 hour show.
So let's just have a look at some of the comments that the viewers are putting in, because obviously we like to discuss what the viewers are saying. Nadim said, do we have any opinions on, is season 2 going to be a convoluted version of Tapestry?
No.
I think you might have hit the nail on the head there, Nadim. I think it could well be very similar. Yeah.
More like that 2-part Voyager.
And in reference to Tony's point, David says that Q's de-aging was a lot more realistic than Luke's was.
Yeah.
And both were
I
more
think
realistic.
one static shot for 5 seconds where he doesn't move.
I do think with the Tapestry side, there's a point that I think that could be, there's elements that could be used from that. But I do worry that the writers' room sat down and saw that there was a lot of multiverse stuff happening in all the industries and went, we could do a multiverse story, but it's not technically a multiverse story. It's time travel, but it's still a multiverse story because they're all different versions of themselves, things like that. But also at the start, I was confused. It threw me because I thought when he was going along and he was, checking the vines and things like this, and he looked up, I was waiting for them to suddenly go, it's a holodeck, and he's actually somewhere deep in space. I didn't think they would actually have him back at home there. I thought they would have just carried on. I didn't expect them to jump like 18 months.
There was some quite little features on that opening scene in the vineyard, where you see, and it was such a little thing that they put in visually, and it just made me smile. There's the tanker, I want to call it a tanker, is going over the vineyards, and you can see it beaming the grapes off. And then when the overhead shot comes in, you can see it transporting it into the buckets, and you see the bucket light. And it's just like, that was nicely done. It didn't have to be there, but it's just like, oh yeah, okay. Nice,
but that cost somebody a job.
It's a very energy-intensive way of reaping in your harvest, isn't it?
No, you say that, but surely by beaming the grapes, you've now put the grapes into the transporter matrix, so you can re-beam out a whole load of grapes.
No, we need more Picard 2264. Click.
Exactly.
Although by this reasoning, Tony, does that mean that nobody can ever die in the Star Trek world because you just essentially just re-upload their old transporter pass and just beam a new
Yeah, but
one?
you're always going to be a clone of a clone of a clone.
Really
I was going to say, we're not going into the realms of does the transporter kill the original and just make a. We're not going there, are we?
Well, my question is though, he's got this vineyard and he's making these bottles of wine. But we all know when you're in space, you just go to the computer, make me this wine, and it appears.
Yeah, but it appears non-alcoholic. This is the issue. This is why I take issue with it. I couldn't live in space. That's without. I don't know what this is. This is about 7
Wine,
quid.
Richard.
Yeah,
So discerning.
7 quid's worth. Yeah,
I'm drinking water.
What's wrong with you, Tony?
My water's got added wine in it. But this is the thing. I mean, you skipped ahead to Guinan's bar, past my bullet points, but they go to the top shelf there, and they get there's no sort of Guinan doesn't just magic up stuff. And when she's the head of the Tenderford bar on the Enterprise, she doesn't use a replicator. There obviously must be a difference. You can taste when it's synthesized, and you can taste when it's real. I mean, that's why everyone raved about Cisco's jambalaya, because it wasn't just out the replicator, was it?
I think they were just being nice to him.
Apparently, wine is fortified water, Tony. So there we go.
And the chosen one.
So, Richard, what's your next point to start discussing?
Well, I mean, we moved straight on from that onto when they were bottling the wine, and he glances over at Laris, and Laris glances back at him, and this leads to
Chickawawa.
Well,
Someone's got a soft spot for Laris there, Nadim.
But it leads to really a cataclysm of superb acting events in the episode, where Picard, Patrick Stewart, literally delivers a masterclass of acting without saying a word. I mean, he did that all the way through the episode. He was just unbelievably good, to the point where he made you emotional without even saying a damn word. He was fantastic. And it then steers straight on to that wonderful scene outdoors where Picard's wearing that grey turtleneck cable knit sweater. And, you know, they're bouncing off each other so well. And he looks like kind of like a friendly, sexy turtle. And it's just, you know.
I want his hat. I want the hat that he was wearing.
Me too. I need the hat he was wearing.
Okay.
But that brings me on to another point. So where were we? Yes, so we had a fast forward then to seeing what Soji was up to into the Beta Quadrant, which was nice to see her with Dr. Jurati making some first contact and whatnot. And I think what they've done with Dr. Jurati, they've really kind of got her a bit pissed and de-stressed her and made her more of a comedy character. And I think that really worked. It may not have done, but I thought it was fantastic myself. And she makes the joke with the chap at the bar saying, hey, this is how beautiful people flirt. Of course, you noticed what was beautiful about that man, didn't you? That's right, he was bald. He was very sexy bald. The same as Patrick Stewart is a sexy bald. Bald is the new sexy.
Am I right in thinking that that was the Delton planet, which is obviously a throwback to Star Trek motion picture, isn't it?
I took it as that, yeah.
Yeah.
A slight nod back to that.
I will say, going back to the very beginning, I know that we had Richard's like 16-point power slide presentation about things that happened before the pictures. But the thing that really threw me, because obviously it's, and I wondered if this was a throwback to the criticisms of season 1, where people went, it's really slow, it's taking its time, it's not really working it. And season 2 started with boom, crash, smash, boo, boo, pew, 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 pew.
Oh, when they got thrown against the wall, that was brilliant. Yeah.
And that looked like it was very much a physical motion rather than the CGI. It looked like they literally made a box and just kind of shunted it, so they fell. But I mean, going aside of the trope of, you know, record scratch, I wonder how I got here kind of thing, or the 37 hours earlier trope, it did feel very much like it was a here you go, action from the start. This is what it's going to be. We're not season 1, we're season 2. We're completely different. And I like that.
As a writer, Tony, is that type of jumping into the middle of the story and then using a throwback to go further into your story later on, so 37 hours later coming back, writing wise, does that make it easier for you as a writer if you're going to do something like that, because you know you're aiming towards something? Or...
No, I hate those. I absolutely hate those. It's, and as personally as a writer, I find that sometimes these can be quite lazy. And there is the trope of the, record scratch, that's me, or, wonder how I got here. And
you mean like they do with The Walking Dead every season?
A little bit. But when you're writing the story, that would have been the scene they started with. And, when the writer's room sat down, that would have been here's an idea. How about we have this kicking off? And, okay, well, how do we get to this point? Well, Picard's got to be there. This person's got to be there. They've got to be doing all this. And so as a writer, it's a great starting point to work from, and I can see why they placed it there. But then you then spend the entire episode going, well, we know where he's going. We know what's going to happen. And you lose a little bit of what happens next. And what I am glad about is a lot of the times, if it's done in a film or if it's done in a long form series, this could be like episode 7 that they've shown you. At least this time, it's already gone. It's happened. It's done. It's moved on. And in a way, it was nice that you saw them running along and coming into this. And the second time you see it, it's the other way around. You see the elevator open, you see them run out, you see them get blasted aside.
The only bit they might come stuck with there was the only bit about the episode I wasn't keen on, and that was the flashback with his mum. I think that's going to keep going back and get a bit irritating. But I hope it might not do, and I hope it won't, but we'll see.
No,
well, it's showing us depth to Picard, isn't it? To the character that we didn't know before.
My worry is it starts going down the Charles Dickens route of everything is connected. And there's and this is something to do with they know something about his mum, and his mum's going to turn up because she would disappear. Yeah, this is it, or she'll return. And then that kind of falls a little bit into Discovery territory.
Now, it's strange that Tony was saying about how the episode starts with a bang, because what that says to me, it reminded me of a couple of different episodes where that sort of happens. But it reminded me of one of my favorite TNG episodes, which was Cause and Effect. Which, if you remember the beginning of that episode, it's the Enterprise D exploding, and you're like, oh my God, what the hell? And then the episode starts, and it's like, oh, okay.
Well, I think this is why this works, is because it ends with it, blow up, and that was boom, quite nice. And I think and the moment you have the big flash of white light at the end and it goes into nothing, you could take that as either it's the blindness of the blast, or it's Q, because it was always the whiteness and then Q turned up.
Well, it's like as soon as the Alumni appeared and it was that Borg shade of green, you knew it was the Borg. Yeah. It's straight away you knew it was the Borg. Fantastic.
Or Eric Banner. Possibly.
One thing, and I don't know if you guys
normally in space they have the color chart and just hold it up and like, that's Borg. That is
temporal, subspace, Borg.
I'm not sure what you guys made of the new iteration of the Borg Queen, but is it me or have they lifted Shinzon's outfit from Nemesis? Because it looked very, very similar to me. It really did.
Do we know who's cast as the Queen?
Yes.
We do.
Let
me drag that up. You guys have a quick answer. I'll find that for you.
Right. So the next point.
How many points have we got through so far, Richard? Just so we know how long we're going to be here.
7. We've got 19.
Okay.
So yeah, I'll just speaking about we've done the Picard flashback. I didn't particularly like the scene, but do you know what I loved was the actress who played Picard's mother. Her accent was absolutely superb. She sounded like Picard's mum would sound like. I thought that was absolutely wonderful. That was really well done. And then, of course, we get our first view of the anomaly, which we just covered, and we get to see an Akira class getting knocked on its arse. And I'm kind of glad. That's one of my favorite ships, so I'm glad that got thrown in there so we could see that. But James, I think you've got more to speak about the different types of ships that we get to see in this episode.
I don't know. Do we get to that at the end of your list?
No, you can jump in now.
You have a slide.
We have the slide of the ships, Dan.
Absolutely. If you give me 2 seconds, I shall dig that up.
So, yes, there was a lot of complaint in Picard Season 1 that we didn't really see anything of Starfleet until the very end. And when it did turn up, it was a copy and paste
job
situation where the Zheng He, we just saw lots and lots of copies of that. But when the fleet turns up this time around, that's the Stargazer, of course, which is the hero ship. And it's a lovely one. We'll come on to that. But we saw a whole fleet of different classes of ship, which includes... some from Star Trek Online, which has now therefore been made canon.
Which, if you would like to add me and play, my handle is Jaden R. I'm a Rear Admiral. I'm happy to take anyone on my wing.
Now,
yes, now the Stargazer, of course, that's a flashback to, or a callback to it being Picard's first ship. It's got the same registry number, apart from it's got an 8 in front of it, so they've given it a little homage there.
I quite like was
no, I thought it was actually. I thought it specifically was a refit of the Stargazer.
No, it's not.
No, it's different registry number.
It's a
isn't
Sagan class. It's a brand new class.
But Picard says he does say it's a refit. Or
no,
do
if you look at the commissioning plaque, they say it's a Sagan class.
I know, but it's what Picard says.
Picard's very old, Richard. I probably didn't even realise where he was. I mean, every scene he's there, he's got someone walking him along.
Richard, you've got to remember, Picard's probably not defragmented himself for a while. He's probably suffering a couple of mismatches.
What I love about this is the name of the episode as well. It's called The Stargazer. How has that never been used before? How did it in 7 seasons of TNG, when we found out Picard was the captain of the Stargazer so early on in TNG, how was that never used as an episode title previously?
More importantly, exactly what did Dan mean by defragging? Is this back to being in the transporter rejuvenating your cells? Or are we...
Well, but isn't he now positronic plug and play?
He's a
I was
robot.
going to say,
Yes, he's a homunculus,
now
isn't he?
mechanical.
Or a golem, I suppose.
Now, there's your new Borg Queen. And it's
Very nice.
Because this is the question I was going to ask, because I remember seeing that, and obviously everybody knowing it's going to look like, the Alice Kree or whoever. And I wondered whether the mask thing that was being worn was just kind of to hide it for the first episode or two before they really get to that point again, because they didn't really want to give away everything in episode 1.
I have my own personal theory on this, and I think inside the mask, when it flips open, I think it's going to be 7. But we'll see.
I think it's going to be his mum, because everything's connected in a Charles Dickens way.
Now, interestingly, there was the episode with
Ooh,
So
Picard.
I've got to say, very sorry. That did not look like the Shadows Babylon 5 ship.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Does actually.
I mean, also, we haven't covered this week's Discovery. Luckily, nothing happened in it, so we don't need to talk about it. But in Discovery, they spend like a whole season chasing an anomaly. You never even get to see it. Picard, he doesn't muck about. Straight in. There you go. There's your anomaly. Bang! It's a massive Borg ship. Let's have a fight.
Now, is anybody sort of glad that they haven't tried to tie the DMA into Picard?
Yet.
I wondered if the Dark Matter anomaly would be something that's created, which is then gone forward in time and then links to Discovery. And this is the whole universe in a universe type thing, which they said it will be. You know,
I think they're very different shows, so I don't think they would link them. And I don't mean just that because I prefer one to the other. They seem to be a very different style and format. I don't think they would link them.
now there was a couple of Easter eggs hidden around, which was spotted by the guys from Trek Movie, or spotted these, which is on the
all the labels
ship. It was a reuse of labels and some of the props from Enterprise, specifically, and TNG. So, which was a sort of nice little throwback there.
Ooh.
And the cadets have got the same pocket styles that Nog had when he was also a cadet.
What do you think about the slight angle on the top parts?
That's a riff back again to the TNG style uniforms, isn't it? Where you had the black bit at the bottom that had a sort of upward pointing bit. So if anything, it's a reverse of that.
Yeah.
Do we have a slide of Rios in his captain's uniform?
Unfortunately not, no.
Well, one thing I did enjoy about all of the bridge uniforms on the Stargazer was they were understated, but I thought they looked fantastic. I really did. I thought they were absolutely stunning. I really enjoyed them.
I think the whole production design was amazing on this.
Oh,
I quite like the way the captain's uniform included a dirty great cigar.
I did wonder.
And a high-powered lighter that he just sat there playing out on his finger.
He had a petrol lighter, but he never lit the cigar. Probably be against health and safety. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly that, Paul.
Yeah. So
when's he going to say, "I love it when a plan comes together"?
Yeah.
When is he going to accidentally set fire to his beard?
I did like the fact as well that they gave him his ship, but at the same time they still allowed him to be the holographic. Is it the doctor or the engineer that he's being now? And it's being.
Oh, they've amalgamated all of them into just the one, haven't they?
Yeah, this is it. I couldn't quite work out if it was just that or not. And I did love the fact they kept him speaking in his language.
The one that spoke Spanish was the tactical hologram, wasn't it? And then the doctor was an English accent, and the engineer was a Scottish accent. That's how.
And one of them was a Mexican pirate.
Can I please ask? Can you guys see my mouse moving on this picture? Or
Yes.
What I liked was this little flat throwback here, which very much reminded me of the
Monster Maroon.
Yeah, Monster Maroon. It's that sort of much more relaxed sort of Just
isn't that how they've done Lower Decks?
Yes.
On that sort of style, and
very much
matches to the old Arthur Carnes as well.
So let's have a look. So looking on some of these things, Dim says when Sir Patrick quits, Picard should continue with Rios.
No.
Well, it'll just become Star Trek Stargazer, won't it?
I think he's got enough he could carry a show, certainly.
Now,
I'm not sure.
The ladies love him.
So
he was certainly one of the standout characters.
We waited nearly 2 years for this season to come out. If you had to, and I'll go around the table, start from the top. So James, if you had to rate the episode out of 10 and give it a no more than 3 sentences review, what would it be?
Picard, excellent. Patrick Stewart is back.
Carl?
I would give it a very, very honourable 9 out of 10. And very much looking forward to see where it goes.
Okay. Richard?
I would give it a 10 out of 10. And I'll go so far as to say I simply wasn't emotionally prepared for just how good the episode was and how much I enjoyed it. I know that I've not been a big fan of what we've had since the last season of Picard. So to kind of, for me, to get some real Star Trek back bowled me over hugely. And as I already covered before, the amount of acting masterclass Patrick Stewart put on, just simply without saying any words in that episode, just reminded me of just how amazing he is.
Yes.
I'm going to go a little bit against the grain here, and I'm going to give it 6 out of 10. And no, wait.
Bye, Tony.
It's all right. We've got the power to remove him, boys.
The reason being is 10 out of 10 is perfection, and I think the series is going to get better. And I think starting at 10 out of 10 is going to mean there's nowhere to go upwards, apart from James has done 11 out of 10. And I think this being chapter 1, I genuinely think this is a start of something even bigger. So even though I'm saying it's 6 out of 10, that 6 is still higher than every 10 out of 10 of every other show. But I think it's going to go bigger and better, because I think all the stuff.
So you're rating it on its own scale, Tony, is what you're saying?
Yeah, I've changed the scale.
James's dial goes all the way up to 11, though.
Mark, let's have a look at some of the other people's reviews, and I'll say
Hang on, let me do the Discovery score.
See, I like Discovery. I'm not going to argue it. But no, I genuinely think that this was a brilliant start. But looking at what they've created, I mean, I think you can't really give it a 10 out of 10 until they're all back in the same room. And you know there's going to be that scene when they're all back in the same room. When you've got that Guinan versus Q, when you've got all the fan favourite things you want, when the Borg Queen is there and it's all kicking in.
I can't fault your logic, Tony, because it's the same scale and the same excuse I use when I ask a woman to rate me on her lovemaking, or rather my lovemaking.
That's because you don't say, I'm Delton.
Right, so let's look at the reviews we've been sent in. Alan says he's going to give it an 8 out of 10. Everyone looks old, but who gives a flying monkeys? It's brilliant.
Wasn't it, Alan? You don't look any older, mate. You're the same.
Even though everyone looks old,
did anyone notice how much more sprightly Jean-Luc Picard seemed? How much more energy Patrick Stewart seemed to have compared to season 1?
He did.
It was very obvious to me that.
Dim says that the Borg and Q are very safe territory to start with.
Because Q seemed a lot more sinister. Even just those couple of lines he had at the end there. There was a different look in his eye.
It's the goatee. Goatees make you sinister. Never trust a man with a beard.
So what I'm going to say is I'm not going to rate it out of 10. I'm going to break my own making you rate it. I'm going to put it up there with, for me, the best episodes of TNG are Tapestry, which is one of my favourite episodes of TNG, and All Good Things. They're my two sorts of...
Inner Light's your favourite.
I was going to say, you're forgetting Inner Light there,
Inner Light there, Dan.
What about Code of Honor?
I would put it as an equal to those.
Where was Sub Rosa in all this?
Interesting debate there. What's worse, Code of Honor or Inner Lights?
See, that was the other thing. When you have this huge green anomaly, it could have been, it could have been the candle ghost.
Don't say bad things about Sub Rosa.
Now, obviously, because we are behaving because Tony's on the show, and we're behaving because we want to be invited to Star Trek events, I'm not going to say anything bad about the Inner Light in public.
I liked Inner Light. I thought it was very good fun.
Only Richard has an adverse opinion of the Inner Light in this one.
No, I'm also doing the Dan route. I would also like to be hosting more Destination Star Treks, so I'm not going to say anything bad either.
I think
Inner Light, 45 minutes of Patrick Stewart learns to play the recorder. Right, moving on.
Discovery is brilliant.
And the interesting thing about Inner Light, though, as well, is at the end of Inner Light, where he's the old man, Picard, he still looks younger than he does now.
We have now. Somebody touched on it before about Picard's mother's going to be. We're expecting to see that come back a few times.
That was point 5,
and she's no longer French.
We have seen Picard's mother show up in TNG in a dream format.
As a very elderly lady.
Do you have a slide? Because I don't remember.
Picard's mum was drinking tea in a corridor, if I remember correctly.
It was like an elderly version.
When no one was before.
It wasn't the young version.
Was it Patrick Stewart dressed in drag, pretending to be? Was it like? Or was
he could do it. He's got the range.
He could. Absolutely.
We did see his father once as well, didn't we? That was in
like Widow Twanky.
I will say, I loved the painting. I loved the part where he stares at the painting. I thought that was perfectly done.
The evil painting.
Yes.
Yeah, Picard's mum had shown up in this scene.
Well, that's a very interesting comment from Katie, though, because I mean, when I remember watching this, I didn't click that was his mum. I thought that was his grandma.
No, he calls her maman.
Yeah, but it's French, and
Or
they
Mimo.
call grandparents grandma.
There was, I'm not sure if any of you follow Jonathan Frakes on Twitter this week. He said that the gentleman that played his father in TNG passed away.
Yes, he died yesterday.
Yeah.
It's,
Which is
I do follow Jonathan Frakes on Twitter, but I frequently have other commitments, so I miss his tweets.
Dear Jonathan, I'm sorry I wasn't able to read your tweets today. I was very busy. Please send them again. Regards, Richard. Click. P.S. I am now a Mexican pirate.
Lose the beard, you look creepy. Right.
Should we tie this into Tony? I'm very sorry, I can't read you, Jonathan. I'm busy reading my next Jack Gatland novel. So
I've already read 3 of them while I've been on this panel.
available on Amazon.
I'm that fast.
And just to say that I'm not lying. There is a Tony Lee novel on Amazon on Kindle.
Are you reading
more
my
than
book
one.
while you're on this? You really
I'm
need to
not.
get out more.
I'm multitasking.
Are you reading the first Jack Gatland novel?
So, Star Trek, that's a good thing. It's hard.
So,
I'm sure there's
yeah,
about 27 points on Richard's list.
point 11.
Oh god.
So this is an interesting one for the keen-eyed among you, and that's, I think they're using a different house. That I don't see anything familiar in the house. We're missing the ready room from season 1. The hallway looks different. The kitchen looks different. I think it's they've actually shot it in a different building, even though from the outside of it looks the same.
If you are just joining us, good evening and welcome to Let's Talk Trek. This is the 200 points of the Kittimer Records, as dictated by Richard.
I mean, it looked lovely. I especially liked. I love the set. I love the library. I mean, who doesn't want to live in a house with a library that's got an iron circular staircase that goes? I mean, wow, it's just incredible. But I didn't recognize a single thing from season 1. Not a hallway, not the kitchen, nothing. So I think they've shot it in a different building.
Well, maybe he's remodeled.
Quite possibly.
Maybe the pain of seeing Data die in his office made him remodel.
Well, that was kind of because when they were in space and he needed to think, they obviously recreated his study on the. So it obviously meant a lot to him, but not enough to keep it to season 2. It just seemed a bit strange. So but there we are. Just my own little observation. That was point 11.
And what's point 12?
Well, point 12. Elnor at Starfleet Academy. I mean, where are we going with this? He didn't do a lot, let's be honest, in season 1. I actually quite liked the character. And I thought, Picard's not going to be jumping over any boulders or getting any Gorns in a headlock. So you've got to bring in a bit of muscle. So I like the idea behind it. And I felt the character, because you guys know I'm a big martial artist and martial arts fan myself. So fantastic bringing him into it. But it very much seems like they've said goodbye to him now. I mean,
no, I disagree.
One of the interesting points I thought about that was the fact it threw me back to. Do you remember when Ro Laren was an ensign back in TNG World, and Bajor hadn't been accepted into the Federation at that point, but she'd gone through Starfleet Academy and she made her own sort of ship. And in universe, the destruction of Romulus has happened some 20 years previously. How has not one Romulan applied to go into Starfleet in that time period?
They probably have. They've just not been allowed.
Maybe.
We have.
I
someone put in a rather good word
what you're saying there. I think that they were very clever with this because they've split everybody apart. And I think for the mechanics of the story, and this is based purely on the trailers, I've not gone for the spoilers or anything like that, so I could be completely wrong. I feel that now we're in the It's a Wonderful Life world, but where everything's changed. It doesn't matter that Elnor's gone off onto that ship over there. Elnor's still around now because it's a different Elnor, and we're going to.
I saw one clip in the trailers that looked like it might have been Elnor, and it looked like it was when Picard was in the past and he was walking underneath a subway, and a big kind of figure drops in behind him that looks a bit like it might be Elnor. You're not sure if he's going to take him out or if he's there to protect him. You know.
Well, this is it. I think this is what they're going to do. Is they're going to have it that it doesn't matter where everybody is because they're all going to be in this particular story. And then I don't think we're going to get back to that moment probably until about episode 7 or 8. I think it's going to be completely self-contained.
Although I'm not convinced, the way you phrased it there was that it's going to be a different Elnor. Actually, from some of the trailers, I suspect all the central characters are going to have moved into this universe with Picard.
I think Q's playing games, yes.
Yeah.
Also, I will also say is I think that they brought Elnor in because in the first season, as somebody said earlier on, Patrick Stewart was quite, he wasn't expecting to do much more than just walk around and stuff. He was feeling his age a bit. He was very worried about the show because as we know, he wants to be involved in it. He was involved in the writers' room, and I think once he realized how good it was and how fun it was, it energized him. And I think they've looked at him and gone, we don't actually need this person being the surrogate action star because Patrick Stewart's kind of covering that now. He can do all that now still. And when he was at Destination, he is still as sprightly as he ever was. And I think it kind of made Elnor a little bit redundant.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about because I really like the character and I thought they should have probably done a bit more with him. But we'll see. I'm excited to find out. That's just it. That's it. I mean, this is the great thing. I'm really excited for next Friday. Do you know what I mean? How long has it been since you're excited? I mean, I know the popular thing, like with The Witcher these days, is like just to drop it all in one go and you can binge it. No, I like being excited for Friday when the new episode drops. I like that. Yeah, I'm so excited for Friday. Really am.
Yeah, I mean, it's that, and the fact that we are all sitting here talking about it, in the fact that the whole Star Trek community is talking about this show again, and we're not knocking Star Trek Discovery. Star Trek Discovery is brilliant, in its place. But I don't see the same eagerness,
enthusiasm,
Discovery at the moment, and I'm not sure if that's because it's different or because Picard has been just so wanted and looked forward to for 2 years, And
I think it's that. I think Picard pushes the nostalgia buttons, and they're very much pushing the nostalgia buttons.
Well, this brings me on to my next point, because it's it was very noticeable, I think, on production value between Discovery and Picard, especially when it came to Starfleet Academy and the assembly of everyone being together. Discovery, it just looked cheap. It looked like a bad Sky Captain World of Tomorrow green screen dub over. It really, really felt like they'd run out of money. And then Picard, wow, look, there's the Academy. There they are in the conference hall all together. It looked amazing. It looked like how it should look. And of course, I know that in Discovery we're set in the future when the Federation is on its arse, but we know the Academy is still there. They don't have to make it look so cheap. And this is the thing that I'm a bit puzzled about, and Tony might be able to shed more light on because he's more experienced. But I mean, would they not be able to have shared the set and redressed it a little bit? Or
it depends on who the co-pro is. I mean, I seem to recall because Picard isn't technically full CBS, hence the fact that we get it on Amazon rather than it's pulled and we're now watching it on Pluto until Discovery Plus turns up. I think there's an element, or Paramount Plus turns up. I think there's an element of there was more budget for Picard. I think when they pushed it to, I think Amazon put a chunk of money into it. I think there was somebody else, one of the American broadcasters, also put a chunk of money into it. So therefore, you've suddenly got two parts of the same branding. That one is getting probably 2, maybe even 3 times the amount. And when you look at Discovery's cast, I mean, it's a very large cast now, whereas Picard has gone for quite a core area. I think there's definitely an element of, and again, CBS is going to look at it and go, we love Discovery. Discovery is great, but we know we're going to make more from Picard. And they will, because they'll make more on the international sales. So there will be more budget placed into it. And the thing that I think Discovery shot themselves in the foot is, although they did the right thing by going into the future and they can now create their own narratives and their own stories, they can't share sets because all the sets in the future can't look like anything now.
Oh, but they're great at redressing them, though. They
are, and I do think there's a little bit of the Stargazer. When I looked at it, I thought there's parts.
I thought it looked Discovery.
Like it could be Discovery-esque.
Yeah,
but there's not the element that you could have done, say, when Next Gen and Deep Space Nine were running around together at the same time, or Voyager was running around. You had corridors that were used in all three. You could play around and bounce around with it. And I do think that was one of the problems they have. But it's definitely, I think it's a different studio. I think it might even be in a different country. So I don't think they're filming it in the same place as Discovery's being filmed.
Discovery's being filmed in Canada. You've got this has been filmed in California. So
yeah,
Discovery and Strange New Worlds are both Canadian filming, aren't they?
Yeah.
Now, Tony was just talking about how different scenes in DS9 and Voyager were reused. I've caught myself falling into that trap, which is I'm halfway through season 7 of DS9. You know, in the war arc, it's like part 1 of 9. And you can't just watch one of those episodes and turn it off. You have to watch the entire bloody 9-episode arc. So that's an entire day gone with it on the screen because it's so good. It just is amazing. But there's the episode where I've just got the episode where they're doing. Come on, Dan, use your words. The Bellerophon's there, and Bashir's doing a Section 31 trying to run with the senator. And it's just like, oh, that's Voyager.
Well, that was the redress Voyager.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that, to answer your question, I think that's why it was.
Yeah.
Well, if one's being filmed in California and one's being filmed in Canada, I think that answers our question. Possibly that's the same carpenter, but it's not the same set.
So how many times have we all watched this already? Bear in mind, it's only Sunday.
We know it's not the same set. I asked Dougie Drexler, and he replied to me and said it's not.
How many times have we watched Picard already, guys?
Twice.
2.
I'm very busy.
There's something about it a bit rewatchable. You know what I mean?
Okay, I've got to ask one question though. Then,
Sure.
you've all seen it twice. How many of you saw new things the second time that you hadn't seen the first time?
Very much.
Yeah.
Because it strikes me as very much one of those sort of shows where every time you watch it, it's like an onion.
So I said to Richard before, there's a scene where Elmo is standing in front of the Stargazer plaque when he's told he's going to the Excelsior.
Lovely prop.
And when I watched on my TV, and when the camera pans out slightly, the ships to either side of where the Stargazer is, because the Stargazer it says at the bottom, originally captained by Jean-Luc Picard. This one says Excelsior originally captained by Hikaru Sulu, and then the Enterprise D says Jean-Luc Picard next to it. And it's just like, oh, that's a nice little Easter egg. It's very small in text, but on a big screen it shows up. It's like, oh, okay. Yeah. Just little bits like that sort of like picked up. I was like, okay, that's quite cool.
I picked up absolutely nothing, so I was making this list, and I missed loads that I probably should have picked up on the second time round.
Carl and I saw it at midnight on Wednesday night, so we were all exhausted.
I was a little blurry-eyed.
Right, gents, we are coming up towards the top of our hour, and at this point, all that is left to do is to say thank you to the viewers.
Right, no, but we're only on point 11.
We shall carry some points over to next week, Richard.
Yes, you should do that because I won't be here.
So we would like to say a big thank you to our special guest, Tony Lee. Thank you for coming on, Tony. And
thanks,
Nice to see you, Tony.
Always fun.
Yeah, always a pleasure.
And thank you to all the viewers. We will catch you, of course, next week for Star Trek Picard Episode 2. There will be more Star Trek talk as well. And the usual features will be back. But from all of us, have a great one. Stay safe this week.
Look after yourselves and each other.